Let us fire it up here, see what it sounds like. Oh, that's not a happy sound. Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and we have an XKR in the workshop. I don't have these that often in, but they're starting to grow on me, these cars. When they were launched, I wasn't really a big fan of them. I didn't really find them, the styling wasn't my thing. However, about 4 or 5 years ago, I rewatched that old Bond movie, you know, They Die Another Day or Live Another Day, or the one where they're basically driving on ice and things. And the baddie has one of these, and I thought, you know what? They're actually pretty cool. And I always loved the engine, supercharged V8s. That is really nice. This is a customer of mine. You might have seen him before. He was here with a really low mileage XJS, a silver one, really nice one. This is one of his other cars. And he was up around here, and we'd actually talked that he was going to come by in June or something with this car for some other things. However, he was at a hotel about 20 minutes away, and it broke down. He called me up, and he said, hey, I'm not that far away from you. Can I come over and just, grab a cup of coffee and talk? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then he called me a while later and said, yeah, car's making a funny noise. Can I send it to your house on a transport truck? I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So it does have a funny noise. Let us investigate it together. I think I already know what it is, but we'll do a little investigation. Hopefully fix that and hopefully have him back on the road really soon. Let us fire it up here, see what it sounds like. Oh, that's not a happy sound. However, you have a look down here. See that belt slapping around in there? Let me get a flashlight and show you that. You got two belts here. You got the supercharger on the outside and the inner. You see the belt is chewed up, and you see that right down there on the tensioner, that is not spinning. That has seized. Though it sounds absolutely terrible, you would think that it might be timing chains or something. He has, of course, done the upper timing chain tensioners and all of that. And he's actually done all coolant hoses as well on this car, which is really nice. Not that many people do them. There is some coolant hose, I think, on the Jags. There's one in the middle underneath the supercharger, and the Range Rover ones, they have two. And he's done those. And that's good because they often do leak. And we have talked about this. If this is the issue, we're going to replace everything. Both of the belts and both of the tensioners, because you have to remove the supercharger belt to get to it. So it's just really cost of the belt to replace that, and tensioners and everything. So I think what we're going to start with is I'm just going to cut off the inner belt, and we'll start it up and make sure that everything is nice and quiet, so that is absolutely the issue, which it definitely is. But just for the sake of it, let's do that. Look at how chewed up the belt got. So there's that, and over there as well. So now I just want to fire it up and just really make sure that was the issue. I have checked all the other accessories, the AC compressor, the alternator, the water pump, all that does spin freely and nothing feels weird. You can actually fire these things up without a supercharger belt. It will idle because just sort of free spin, but we still have a supercharger belt on. I mean, this is really just sort of to prove on video that yes, this seems to have been the issue. Oh, it's not going to charge or anything. I'm not going to run it for long, but it should be quiet now at least. And yeah, running nice and quiet. So nothing wrong with the engine, just a bad tensioner and a bad belt. The rest of it is sounding nicely and running as it should. So we'll switch it off, and then I'll get these other belts off, tensioners off. I have everything new for it, put it all back together, and hopefully it's a lot better then. Not 100% sure about this, but I believe on all the supercharged ones you do need to remove the fans. To get to things on the regular XK8, you can usually leave them in place. However, it's just not that difficult to remove them. On the XK8, I believe it is just 2 screws holding them in, and then 2 connections down by each fan, and then the wires to the fans are sort of held in place. You snap them off and you can lift this straight up. On the supercharged one, you need to drain a little bit of coolant, remove the upper rad hose, and then it should lift out. It's still going to be a little bit tight, but there we go. And there we go. One thing I did check before, and also why I want to remove this, is I see a little bit of white on here. So it's definitely a slight leak somewhere, and I just want to see what that is and let the customer know. We have a lot more room for activities now, and can easily get the bar on there. I could get it on before as well, but however, to get the tensioner off, you need to you need to get the tensioner off to get the belt off. Found the leak. There is a tiny bit of wetness right there in that seam, so I'm going to recommend that he gets a new radiator. When it is together, I will pressure test and see how minuscule it is, and maybe you can use the car for a little bit before I get the radiator, but at least now we're going to do all the belts. So it's quite easy. You just see there, loosen the tension of the belt and get the belt off. So I'll get that belt off, replace the tensioners and all that. Should be really straightforward, and put new belts on, and hopefully everything starts up and runs fine. Those 2 green connections there are the ones that disconnected on the fans. Looks to be a 13mm here on the tensioner. Yes, I do have metric tools. I just don't use them very often because most things I work on use inches and things. Let's see. There we go. I will be looking up all the torque specs later. I do have all the factory manuals for all these. Going up to the F-type, actually. So, you gotta be prepared in case you get them in the shop. They're starting to become classics now. At least this is. Quite stubborn. But yeah, this is definitely a doable DIY thing at home. I've done these on pretty much the same engine, but in a Range Rover on a video before. My wife's supercharged Range Rover that has a 4.2. So the next version of this engine. But it's all very, very similar. And it's a nice, very satisfying job to tackle at home. And now that we have this off, I can clean here under the radiator and everything. I think there's some dirt in here. And, it's being stubborn. On the world's longest bolt. And here is the old tensioner. Feels pretty good, actually, but because I need to remove this anyway to do other things, the customer is, I think he's making a wise choice, because there will be no difference in labor, but it will be replaced, and he doesn't have any documentation on when it was replaced last. Same goes with the supercharged belt. It honestly doesn't look too bad. I'm not really cracking or anything. However, usually you replace both belts at the same time. So if the other one's failed, this one could probably fail pretty soon as well. And if the other tensioner failed, well, this one could pretty soon as well. Now, also, he likes to drive on sort of long rallies and things far away. It's not noisy or anything, but we're replacing it. Now, I believe I can bring you guys in for a closer view. There is... That one's actually kind of noisy. Can you hear that? The idler pulley for supercharger is a little noisy. That one's not too bad. And yeah, that one's not too bad either. And yeah. So I'll bring you guys in for a closer view, show you the other things that I'll remove. So it's pretty straightforward. And then it's just putting new stuff on there. So here is the one that's a little noisy. That one is, and There's a lot of play in that one. So it's on the way out. That one down here. This feels fine. And then we have this one over here, which was stuck, but I managed to get it unstuck, but it feels notchy, doesn't feel good. So that was the failure point over there. That's another tensioner. But I'll get all these off, replace them with new stuff. It's, you know, really rather straightforward. And then we'll start routing the inner belt, and then we'll do the outer belt. And so you see the tension here, it goes over the belt. That's why you need to remove it. And then we'll put the fans in and put some coolant back in it and start it up. All right, the torque setting is the same for all of them. It's 40 Newton meters. So there we go. And then this one down here is a little tighter. Not torque-wise, just space-wise. There we go. And the one I have left to do is the one for supercharger belt, but can't do that one until we put the other. So I'll put on the accessory drive, then supercharger belt, and the last one, and we'll fire this, fans back in, fill it with some coolant, fire it up, and see what it sounds like. All right, the accessory belt inside is on and all tension. Now it's time for the supercharger belt, which I believe it goes like that. And then we need to have a new tensioner on, because the belt goes behind the tensioner. And yeah, that goes all the way down there. And this one is a 13. Both the tensioners were 13, and then the other pulleys were 15 millimeters. There we go, that is snug. And then that one gets torqued to 14 Newton meters as well. There we go. That is torqued. Now, let me get my breaker bar. Regular 1/2-inch breaker bar on top of here, and I'll bring the camera down and show you guys when it's all together. It's just, some jobs are very difficult to film, and this is one of those. There we go, let the tension off slowly, then feel around, make sure that the belt is on there where it should be everywhere. I'll bring you guys in for a close look, but both belts and all the tensioners are replaced. And here we have it. Supercharger belt and the other belt behind it, all ready to go. Then you put the radiator back in, hook up the 2 fans, and then after that, just fill it with some coolant and we'll fire it back up. All the belts and everything are running nicely. Not seeing any major issues. And it's all nice and quiet now as well. I need to let it warm up. Oh, we're gonna turn it off actually right now before I let it warm up. Add a little bit more coolant. Then let it warm up and check for leaks. It's sitting here idling. Just now I took it for a brief little drive. And it's up to operating temperature. I have the heater on and just, you know, getting anything out. And also because right here, this dry concrete, I just want to make sure I'm not getting any drips or anything. Nothing so far. Just gonna clean up my work area a bit, then I'll pull this thing inside, lay a fresh piece of cardboard underneath, and then it can sit overnight, make sure it's all tight, and then I'll do a pressure test of the system tomorrow as well. But at least it's running nicely now, and we don't have that weird sound. Well, that's it. A little bit of a different video or a different car in the workshop. Yes, I do work on these sometimes, even though I do prefer the older ones, but XKRs are very, very cool. See here, it's quite hot now, just hearing ticking. I checked because I let idle for so long so the fans went on. That was really good. Both fans were working. And I also put on max heat and everything circulates. So it seems to be fine. I'll let it sit here. The floor is clean and there's some cardboard underneath to double check for leaks. I'll also do a completely pressure test of the system just because I've had it apart. I like to do that. Other than that, this thing is ready to go back to the customer. I'll also take it on an extended test drive a little bit later. Make sure that the belts are fine at a little bit higher RPMs as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Till next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.